Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tony Talks Get Up and Grow, where I have conversations with inspirational leaders, influencers, and change makers, people that aren't just doing well in life, but that are doing good in the world by contributing back of their time, of their knowledge, of their heart. And today I have the privilege of having another a good friend of mine coming on. And he's not in the green room quite yet because he was in transit, but we're going to have him come on in just a couple of minutes. This guy is somebody that is, again, making a difference, making an impact, and he's absolutely amazing. He is the co-founder and managing partner of the Unblinded movement. He has the most beautiful hair of he's already in the green room, so I'm teasing him. So he's got the, while I've got the Rona do, his is like long flowing locks of hair. So here we go. It is none other than Fernando Valencia from Unblinded. Let me bring him on. What's up, Fernando? Hold on a second. Here we go. There he is. What's up, dude?
Hey,
How's it
what's
going?
happening, brother? That is hilarious. You made me giggle. That is funny that my hair has made it into my heroic, unique identity. Grateful to be here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And what's up with you, Mr. Get Up and Grow?
All good, all good. Listen, I was hoping that you were. Are you? I know that you were driving. I don't know. I guess you're still not where you need to be. If you want to, if you want a couple of minutes, if you're already arrived, I can just pull you off screen while you go get situated, if you like. We just have to start because Facebook.
Yeah, listen, let's start. I'm actually where I need to be. I'm in front of my girlfriend's house. I surprised her here. And this is my location. So I am here. Is there any noise or any background things I should know about? But I'm not driving. I am safe.
All right, good. I just want to make sure that, you're not trying to swerve around people. No, the noise is the birds in the trees back by me. You're fine.
I love those noises.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. Actually, they're not as loud in the afternoon as they are in the morning. In the morning, it's incredible when they go. So listen, here. Liba has a message. Says your hair precedes you these days.
For real. That's awesome.
So it's all good, man. Well, listen, it's good to finally have you on. I know we've spoken about having you on over the last couple of weeks and months. So it's good to finally have you on here, the one and only Fernando Valencia. So listen, before we get into what it is that you're doing now, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are for those people who don't know who you are yet. And I just want to remind everyone that this is not just a conversation with Fernando and myself. It's a conversation with you as well. So ask questions, post comments, and because there's nothing better than an engaged audience that we're going back and forth with questions. So tell us a little bit about Fernando. I guess the question is, where are you now and how did you get here, so to speak? I know that you're a Jersey guy as well. So tell us a little bit about Fernando.
So let's jump in. I believe, outside of being, a proud, co-founder of Unblinded, my journey starts when my parents migrated here to the United States in 1986. And it was November 3rd, 1990. And Fernando was born. And in 3 days, and after 2 open heart surgeries, he passed away. And that was my older brother. And the doctors had told my mom that she would never be able to have kids again. And my mom was already older age. She was in her late 40s and was completely devastating moment in my family's history. And, luckily my mom wasn't going to accept that as reality. So she said, no, that's not the way it's going to go. And she went back to Colombia and she went to this, special church called Buga. And she prayed to Jesus and said, if you give me a boy, I promise I'll name him after you. And 1 year later, on November 1st, which is also known as All Saints Day, I was born. And most people see me as like this 6'3", 220-pound guy that talks on stage. But my dad likes to say that I was, since I was born prematurely, that fully covered in blankets, I used to fit in a forearm, like in a whole forearm between the hand and the elbow, like Fernando fits. And that's the reason why my middle name is Jesus. And my whole life, I have felt like I was destined to do something great for humanity, simply for that reason. It's a miracle to be alive. It's a miracle that my mom was, able to have children. It was a miracle that I was born premature and was healthy. And, it's, very coincidental that I was born on All Saints Day. And, my life began there. And my whole life, I always knew that I was destined for something and I wanted to impact humanity. And I love my family. I love my mom. I love my dad. I love my two older brothers. They're the anchor of who I am, my personality, my values. They gave me love. They gave me empathy. They gave me leadership. They gave me everything but one thing. And it was the biggest, challenge we had in our household was money. And I remember that was the only reasons why we had arguments. Fear of like parents not staying together, tons of uncertainty and different, dynamics. And I was committed to that not being my reality. So fast forward 13 years old, I'm, the short, shy, little chubby boy, not, the person you see here today, definitely beyond timid. If you looked at me long enough, I would cry, just to give you, optics into, how timid I was. And at 13, I had an option. My parents gave me an option. Option A was go to school and go home. And that wasn't really going to help me, change the world, because all I did was play Guitar Hero and video games. Option 2 was go to school and play sports. And that wasn't really an option because I was, as I mentioned, non-athletic, chubby, shy, and getting hit by men twice my size isn't really my idea of fun, even though I played soccer till my freshman year of high school. And my third option was to get a job. And I was like, great, I'm going to do that. And I was blessed to have an opportunity to work at a photo studio making $5 an hour. I used to take a little mini bus. I used to get out of school, walk up, 3-4 blocks, get on the bus, pay $1.50, go down 4 or 5 cities, get to my photo studio. And that was my first job. Julio Bulin's photography. I don't think I've ever said that. Making $5 an hour. And I had 2 goals. Goal number 1 was to buy a pair of fresh Nike Air Force Ones, because that's what matters. At 13 years old, I actually have a pair on right now. I buy, one almost every other year to remind myself of what I accomplished at that age. And goal number 2 was to pay a bill for my parents. And fast forward 30 days, I get like some, fat paychecks of $5 an hour. I was making like $250 a month. I was loaded at 13. And not only did I pay 1 bill, I paid 2. And I remember loving that feeling so much pride. And I said, I'm going to keep doing this. And I did. And then, fast forward, some time, I found a new way to develop film, because it was film photography. It wasn't digital, believe it or not. I'm a millennial. I know what film photography is. And I discovered a way to develop film faster. It was, yes, thanks for the clapping. Sean and I joke about my age all the time. You have the white hair, so I think that fits perfect here. And I had discovered a process to develop pictures faster. And that became my first sales job, because I would walk up and down this street in New Jersey called Union City. It used to be like 100 little mom and pop photo studios, and I would sell my process on how to do this for $100. And I remember the first day I got 5 sales. I made $500 in a day. I used to make $250 in a month, and I was like, this sales thing is for me. I love it. I'm like nervous as heck to talk to people, but if it means I can make $500 a day at 14 years old, I'm gonna do it. So I did it. And then at 16, I made my first big boy investment. I invested $15,000 into camera equipment, and I was off to the races. I had my own photography company. I was doing 20 events a year, making anywhere between $2,000 and $2,500 an event, which was pretty awesome at 16 years old.
Oh yeah.
And like I was off. And then it was 17. I was at a wedding at the Rockley Country Club, and I remember I saw a man on a microphone, and he's known as a master of ceremonies, and I was utterly mind blown, because the charisma, the energy, everything he said people listened to. He was creating memories. People loved him. And I was like, what is this guy doing? I need to do that. I remember I walked up to him. I said, what the F are you doing? He laughed. He told me. He said, come to my office on Monday. I'd love to talk to you. I had my dad drive me because I was too scared to drive on the highway. I had never driven on the parkway ever. And I went to this meeting. I walked out. I got in my dad's car and I said, I'm selling all my equipment. I'm no longer a photographer. I'm going to work for these guys, and I'm going to carry speakers and understand events at a deeper level. And I did. My dad thought I was crazy. What's wrong with you? You have this business. And I was like, well, I love it, but I love people more. And I feel like I can impact people more. I love photography because it got me around people, but I loved it because I got to hide behind the camera. And that's when I discovered, Tony, what you and I know very well, which was the power of the microphone and the stage. And I did. I remember following this man, Izzy Felu. He used to be on 103.5, the new KTU. And he was like just this beautiful voice, super elegant. And I would carry a notebook, and outside of carrying speakers and things, every time this man would speak, I would just write how he would introduce, what he would say. I would just write. And I remember I did about 5 notebooks, and I would go to the mirror and I would practice and I would practice and I would practice. And then one day, Izzy's father, passed away, and he needed to go to Puerto Rico. And that weekend there was a wedding, Juan and Lydia Chumpitas. And I had never hosted an event in my life, let alone one in Spanish. And I'm fluent, but I speak English more often. And I had to do it. I had no choice. Opportunity out of the feet. And I did. And I completely dominated. I have that picture hanging on my vision board. They loved it. My confidence soared through the roof. And I was like, I can do this. And within the next 3 months, I had sold 57 events with really only hosting one, anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000 an event. You know, an 18-year-old was getting paid that for probably one of the greatest days in someone's life outside a home and a baby is their wedding. And I was off to the races, and that became my career. I did it. I had my own business by the age of 18, a year after starting. I had my first $1 million business by the age of 21, my first merger and acquisition by the age of 22. I had the third largest business in New Jersey. I had the first and second merge under one brand. I didn't know that I was ecosystem merging at the time, but I did. And overnight, we had a multi-million-dollar operation. I managed a team of 25. We were averaging about 1,500 events a year, and we were rocking, and we were making great money, and life was amazing. And then at 23, it stopped because I decided to leave. And I remember being in an office with a tear in my eye, going, I can't believe I'm never going to be here again. And the reason why I said that is because my partners were willing to lack integrity. They were willing to lie to clients. They were willing to send, cheaper equipment. They were promising I was going to be there and sending someone more amateur, and I was the face of the company. And my option was to follow their ways or, commit a version of like financial suicide and leave an industry I had literally built over a decade. And it was devastating. I usually never step into this part of the story, but I went through 8 months of what people would call depression, and I wouldn't get out of bed. And I felt like I had, God and that shall not be named, like battling within my mind every day. And I wouldn't get up, and I wouldn't eat, and I wouldn't sleep, and I wouldn't talk to people. And the reason why is because I had lost my identity. My whole life, I thought I was going to be the best entertainer in America. And then overnight, I wasn't. And I didn't have the business. I didn't have the money flowing. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And in that, I decided to read a book. And even though I got a full scholarship to college, I had a 3.97 GPA in high school. I graduated college with a 4.2 full scholarship. I never read a book that I didn't have to, like Huckleberry Finn or Harry Potter or something. And I decided to pick up a book. And that book was called The Secret. And once again, I was utterly mind blown because what I had realized is that I had been doing the law of attraction, my whole life. And I didn't have language for it. And in that moment, just like when I, quit the photography studio and I did this, I said, there's something here. And I went from never reading a book to reading 57 that year. And since then, from 23 to 28, I've physically read about 300. I've consumed about 1,000 through Audible and other audio ways. And I decided to recreate another event company primarily focused on personal development. And over the years of 23 to now, I had that business. I was a speaker, a host, an event producer, an event manager. It got me ridiculous proximity to really cool people, really a deep understanding of the knowledge business, how to be a knowledge broker, understanding info products, coaching models, etc. And in that, I went to Business Mastery, Tony Robbins, West Palm, and I met Sean. And that's his whole story, that goes from there. I saw my future in Sean. Once again, he gave me language, just like The Secret had given me, to how I had grown my companies, how I had merged ecosystems, all of which I didn't understand and know I did. And the reason why I really loved the Unblinded Results Formula and why, I respect Sean so greatly is because even though I was studied in NLP, I was studied in Dale Carnegie, I was studied in Landmark, I was studied in spin selling, I was studied in all those different, types of communication. All of them always had an undertone of manipulation. And I never aligned with that because I really love people. And Sean's work didn't. It was rooted on integrity and loving people unconditionally with boundaries. And that resonated with me. And, I'm not the integrity-based human influence guy. That's Sean. I'm the rewriting humanity through peopleification guy. And the reason why I'm so committed to Unblinded, and I left my companies, and I'm, a founder and full-time here at Unblinded, is because I saw my future in the formula. And even though he's integrity-based human influence and I'm peopleification, it's the same thing. Ecosystem merging and the integrous way of multiplying through the 10 by 10 model is part of my life's work and what I've spent my life doing. And now I have structure and language around it. And I'm here, and we're building a movement, and we're doing amazing things. And I'm blessed to have people like you in my life, and I'm grateful to be here. And that is like a snapshot of Fernando J. Valencia.
Nice. I like it. It's a great story. It's got, all the elements of a great story, from, the beginning, inception, to finding your inner hero, to all of it. And I know you say you don't go to that part of the story where you battled depression for 8 or 9 months. But that's an important part of the story that you should share, because there's a lot of people that go through that, and there's no shame in that. I went through that. I went through 9 or 10 months, man, that I was just in denial that shit was actually happening. Actually, I went through a longer period than that. Wow. I went through a much longer period than that. But during those 9 months, it was just being in denial and being in that depressed state as well. It was just an interesting time. So don't hold back when you share that story, dude. Don't hold back, because that's a critical piece. Because everybody thinks that, they look at Fernando and your flowing hair, and they think, oh, this guy, look at him. He's young, he's good looking, he's got the hair, and now he's succeeding. Everybody thinks that it happens overnight, and that success is just like that, which is weird, because it's the screen is backwards, but you know what I mean. It's going up and to the right, not to the left. Success is a straight shot. It's not. Success is up and down and twirls and knots, and your stomach is in knots and your life is in knots. You're like, shit, I'm never going to be able to undo this. What am I doing? I've got to stop. It's madness. I left my company, was making so much money, and what am I doing? I'm going this way. I'm afraid. I can't see the rest of the staircase. How the hell am I going to go up the steps? Right? They don't see those moments of fear, where you have to really pick yourself up and have that courage and that faith to take the next step and to walk away, because it takes courage. Those are moments of courage, to sell all your camera equipment, to go out and sell something when you're afraid to speak to people. By the way, you don't know this, but I was a shy kid until my 18th birthday. Wow. You wouldn't know who the hell I was. I was a shy kid all throughout high school. You may have heard part of the story where a car accident changed my life, and that was literally the catalyst of my life was that moment. But yeah, don't hold back on sharing the dark parts of your story, because that's what really creates the impact. Because if everybody just thinks, oh, look, it happened, he did this, and all you tell is the success parts of that, then it was easy. It's not a hero's journey. It's just a story, but it's not a hero's journey. The hero's journey happens when you're confronted with challenge, when you're confronted with adversity, when you're confronted with quitting, giving up, letting go, taking leaps of faith that people thought you were crazy for. I'm sure that when you decided to walk away from the company that you created and you helped build to the point where it was, everyone from your partners called you an idiot, to your parents, to your friends, like, are you stupid? What are you doing?
That's a fact. That's a fact. Right? Many people didn't believe. They thought I had lost it. And honestly, I thought I had lost it, if I'm being, totally vulnerable. All I knew is that I couldn't choose non-integrity, even though integrity wasn't defined for me the way it is now. I knew that I couldn't choose that. That I knew. I didn't know what to do. I knew I couldn't choose that. And that's really what I based my decision on. And if I look back, every time I've allowed someone in my life who lacked integrity in any way, every time a business partner had a little bit of lack of integrity, it never worked. It just never worked.
Brother, I wish I had paid more attention when I was going through that, because that's exactly what happened to me. And I stayed too long. And then when things went sour, I still said, no, that's never going to happen to me. I know that, this has happened before with, but I know that there's this side of this person, but it's never going to hit me. Well, surprise. But listen, I got to highlight a couple of great comments that people made here. Anne Marie says it's great to know that you worked through and out of sadness, and that's the idea. Is there's nothing wrong with feeling those emotions of sadness and depression and anxiety and fear and everything else. You just got to keep going. And to now Robert's point, this is great how they're kind of falling into sync. Sometimes you just need to tie a knot and hold on till the worst is over. And that's such a great line. Sometimes you just got to tie the knot because you're in that river and the water's just pushing over you and you're slipping. All you got to do is just hang on, because sometimes it's when just when it's the hardest, that's when you're being challenged, whether it be by God, the universe, whatever the problem, the challenge. That's when you're being challenged and pushed the hardest, is when it's the hardest to hold on. And if you can hold on just for that little bit longer, the success and victory is just on the other side. Just when you're about to give up, remember that success is just around the corner. And it was Bob Marley that said that you never know how strong you are until, was it by Marley? I think it was. You never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. Right?
Fun story. Did you know that Sean and I almost had a falling out last August? And this was probably one of the most significant moments in our relationship that solidified the trust we have for each other. And Sean and I don't talk about it as much anymore, but it's truly part of it. There was a moment in time where Sean, and for everyone who's wondering who Sean, fellow co-founder, chief visionary officer of Unblinded, the gentleman who discovered the formula over 22 years, the Unblinded Results Formula, formerly known the Caligie Results Formula, and my mentor. I'm his protege, and I'm proud to call him my mentor. He has taught me so much and given me so much, and we almost didn't make it. And we had that thunderstorm because I went to Business Mastery, and there was like some misportrayal and perception. There was also some people that were dealing with some significance because of how quickly I was rising, that were close in his life at the time. And what sparked it is that, Sean was gracious enough to, have me as his guest. He purchased my tickets and everything to go to Business Mastery. And I made a video in which I thanked everyone. And I promised you on like everything I believe in, I didn't mention his name, and I didn't do it I thanked everyone, including his grandma. Like, not, I'm exaggerating, but I thanked everyone but him. Everyone but him. And I don't know why. There was no intention. And like, he was so hurt. He was so hurt by it. And like all these ideas of, I'm just there to take advantage. I'm just there to rise my equity. I'm just there to like get people to, hire me for things, like, was available. And like, there was a giant blow up. And I remember I was coming back from Hawaii. It was my last day, family vacation. I never touched my phone. And it was a voicemail from Sean, like just going like just bugging out. And I was just like, what is going on? And I remember coming back, and it was just like, I don't want to talk to you, these things. And I was like, no, I'm going to confront. And that's something that I take pride in, is that I confront uncomfortability like no one else. I am willing to have any conversation, especially if I'm wrong. Especially if I'm wrong. I have a quote on my phone by Marcus Aurelius. I look at it every day. If you can refute me, show me I'm wrong or I'm making a mistake, please share with me, because it's the truth I'm after. And Shaw told me the truth. I didn't acknowledge and validate what he had done. He was right. He was wrong in thinking that I was looking to rob, steal, take advantage, but he was right that I lacked a piece of the formula. And why do I share that story? Is because a lot of us see us in the Unblinded movement. They see what we do now. They see the relationship we have. And it wasn't always a pretty ecosystem merger. I've known her for 18 months. And it's only now that I'm beginning to rise, or at least that people are starting to recognize what I'm doing. And I'm okay with that, because I trusted Sean to help write my story. I trusted him. I committed to him. And I had so much opportunity. I didn't need Sean. I had options everywhere. I'm outspoken. I can sell. I have charisma. I'm self-motivated. I'm a leader. I don't need to be managed. I have a lot of qualities that people look for in a partner. And I have integrity. And I chose Sean, not because I love Sean. It's because of who he is and how he shows up in the world. And he happens to have like the greatest formula to grow business ever. And point of this whole story is that even in the beautiful relationship You see, between mentor and protege and apprentice, there was a winter, there was dark times, and we almost didn't make it. So when you're out there looking to like have partnerships, don't think it's going to be a walk in like Tony's beautiful garden, like picking flowers. Like it's not. And the thing is, I wouldn't change it for anything, because it was in that moment that he saw my integrity. It was in that moment that I learned who he was as a man. And it was in that moment that we first confronted each other. And that's when this relationship began. So for everyone that's like thinking and going through things, first of all, it's normal. Second of all, it's through language and conversation that anything is possible. And I'll pass that back to you, Tony.
Yeah, listen, it's growing through adversity, right? I mean, if you guys didn't have that clash, you probably wouldn't have gotten to the depth that you've gotten now. So, to the point that you were saying before, about storms, and we were talking about holding on, and those dark moments, people tend to quit too soon. It's funny that we're having this conversation, because it's like everything that, I make posts every morning, as you know. And yesterday's was, if you can't stop thinking about it, don't stop working on it. So you're kind of speaking right to that. And then today was take risks. If you win, you'll be happy. If you lose, you'll be wise. And it's so pivotal to everything that we're talking about now, right? It's about going after what it is that you want. And I love the story, because I had heard the part about, that you were the MC and the DJ and everything else, but I hadn't heard the story about you having bought developed figured out a way of developing film faster, that you bought your camera gear, and you became a photographer, and then that you sold all that stuff to get into the MC business. So it's the culminating effect of stepping into who it is that you want to be, right? And that continual growth, that continual progression. So many people are too afraid to let go of what they're used to and what they're comfortable with. And that's why they can't grab onto their future. They can't grab onto what's coming, because they're busy holding on to the past, or the story of the past, or they're in fear because they're things aren't going as fast as they think they are, or whatever it is. So listen, I love the story, man. I love the story. But again, I'm going to say it again. The dark part of the story is what makes the light shine brighter.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how bright you shine, if there's no contrast, it's just a light.
Yeah,
But if it's
I
dark,
agree 150%. And one of the things that truly has helped me in that, and it's words could be like, oh yeah, those are nice words, but I truly fell in love with change around the age of 17. I had like a neuro association to change being good. I think it had to do with my lack of wanting to commit, and that's a different story for a different day. But I had a really positive association to change, and I almost craved it. And every time I went through change, I knew I was growing. It also was anchored in my fraternity in college, which is another large part of my story. Briefly on that, when I got into my college in my fraternity, I joined Tau Kappa Epsilon TKE. We were 15,000 in debt. We were days from being suspended on campus, and we were most unrecognized by our national fraternity. And in 4 years, we had a $60,000 surplus. We were the largest fraternity on campus. I enrolled the most members in our chapter's history, and we were third in the nation. And that was my first opportunity of leadership, was there. And our motto was opportunity out of defeat. And that really, I literally get goosebumps. I literally have goosebumps, because I believed in it. I believed in it so strongly. Teak gave me my foundations for leadership. I made all my mistakes. I made some of my deepest leadership mistakes there, and it was a playground for how to step in leadership. And I always found opportunity out of defeat. I always fell in love with change, and it all is rooted. And this is maybe another conversation we can slip in. The way I view death. I study Stoicism deeply. One of my goals is to have Stoic attached to my identity. And they have a saying called memento mori, which is the contemplation of death. Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Zeno, they used to do that daily. It was part of their daily routine, was to contemplate death. Michael Gerber, Begin with the End in Mind, was another anchor on that note. And I have a lovely relationship with death. I actually think about it daily, not in a fearful way, in how does this fit in to like people in my funeral? How does this fit into my legacy? And change is ever constant. And that's something that gives me certainty. As you know, these words, that I associate a certainty with change, because that's the really only thing I can count on that will always be there is change. Like that's something I can count on every day. If I associate certainty with change, that's positive. And I did. And that's been something that has helped me go through a lot in life, is my association to change and certainty.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Actually, that's a great analogy, you know, and to begin with the end in mind. And you know, one of the exercises, a powerful exercise that I did a few years ago, and I got to dig it up. I've got it somewhere. Is, you know, write your own eulogy, right? Which is that contemplation of death and what that would look like, and you know, who would be there, who would miss you, what impact, what void are you going to leave, what impact are you going to, what mark are you going to leave? Are you going to leave an imprint, or is the moment you're gone, you're just gone, right? What are you going to do? It's that legacy conversation as well, right? How much of an impact, how many lives did you touch? You know, so that's really a thing that I did a few years ago, and that was powerful as hell. You know, because is what you're doing taking you to where you want to go? Is it taking you to the impact, making the impact or leaving the mark that you want to leave? Well, you know, if you were to die tomorrow, are you happy with what you've done till now? And you know, that's kind of a deep conversation, which goes to that to your contemplation of death. And I think about that sometimes, is, you know, what were to happen? Because again, I've been there, you know, I've been there, you know, so this is, so it's interesting. I like that, you know, that you have a good relationship with death. That's interesting. It's an interesting way of looking at it. But to fear death is in a way is foolish, because it's inevitable, right? Inevitable. You know, I don't think that we should fear death as much as fear not living, right?
It reminds me of a lovely quote by Joseph Campbell. He says, most people believe they're looking for the meaning of life, when in reality, they're looking for the experience of being alive.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You know, there's a again, you know, my quotes are a thing for me, and I might butcher this one up, but most people, actually I won't because I know it. Most people die at 25 and only get buried. You hear that? Die at 25, but only get buried at 75, because they live the same year. They only live their life up to a certain point, and then they become complacent, or they fall into the comfort zone, or they fall into this pattern, you know. And a lot of people make the excuse, oh, I had kids, I had business, this and that, and then they live the same year every year for the next 50 years, right? So they die old, but they've only lived 25, you know, they've lived the same year 50 times, right? Instead of living every year and experiencing every year, right? And I say all the time that life isn't, and not just surviving life. I don't want to just survive life. I want to thrive. I want to experience. Life is to be experienced, to be tasted, to be crowed at, right? It's, you know, and I think that that's an important part of just experiencing life. You know, my goal is to die young, as late as possible. I love that line. I read that somewhere a few years ago. The goal is to die young, as late as possible, not to get there, you know, in a walker and all like up. I want to be. Listen, I'd love to be 90 or 100 years old, but still being able to talk and you know, the way I do, speak, communicate, walk, do whatever I've got to do, and thrive through life, right? Not just survive it. You know, we've all seen, there's a woman that started weightlifting when she was 68. Now she's like 87 and she's jacked. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's African-American woman. She's like in her 80s and she's jacked. She only started working out at 68. Jacked, wow. like 28-year-old physique jacked.
That's
right.
Wild.
Six pack, the legs, the arms, you know. You know, that's what I want to be. I want to be that you know, that person that's doing things and living. And I don't know where we went off on that tangent. I guess we were talking about death and contemplation of life and contemplation of death. But it's important
Yep.
to figure out what is it you want and what's your why, right? Going back to, to one of the things that we talk about a lot, all in and around Unblinded, right? All in and around getting up and growing and living your best life and being the best version of you, right? It's what's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? What mission are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to influence? Right? What's the legacy you're leaving?
I love that question. And I don't think I've ever shared this like ever, especially not like live. I think, to my intimate circle is, how I created my first mission statement, which eventually led me to rewriting humanity. It was 3 days after I had left that company. I was 23 years old, and I decided to book an Airbnb in like somewhere in freaking Massachusetts. And I booked it because in 25-mile radius, there was like only trees, and I was really craving some alone time. And as I had mentioned, I had lost my identity. I was lost. I didn't know who I was. And I remember seeing a YouTube video about the 48 Laws of Power. And I never really liked that book. I tried reading it twice, and it felt very manipulative to me. And for some reason, I was like called to read it. And I said, all right, I'm going to drive to this place. I got a bunch of construction board, like big pieces of white paper. I forget how long they were, maybe 20 by 30. And I bought a box of colored pencils. And I went over there in like tears, as I was beginning this moment, this time in my life of depression and sadness. And I went with the mission of reading this book and discovering my mission. And what I did is that I got into this little cabin, which I love. I actually, as I talk, I would love to go back to kind of be where I am now and relive that moment. And I put all these cardboards, like it was like a mesh ceiling, a mesh wall, right? It was a little cabin, it wasn't anything fancy. You can see out into the infinite, trees. And I put duct tape and I taped all these cardboards to the wall. And I asked myself one question. I said, who is Fernando Jesus Valencia? Question mark. And I began to write. And I had literally no structure. I had no like plan. I said, I'm just gonna write till I'm empty. And I wrote like a madman, crying everywhere, just like writing, pausing, stopping, walking, writing. And I eventually finished with like 14 poster boards of just like statements like, I am a family man. I am a man of honor. I am a man of integrity. I believe in this. I am this. I stand for this. I believe in this. I will create this in the world. Boom, 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 boom. And what I did is that I took those 14 pieces and then I categorized them into body, mind, and spirit with like a couple symbols. And every single sentence, this is for the body or this is for the soul. And I did that. And then I took all those and I put them into individual poster boards. I put all the mind in one, or like more like 4, all the soul in these, and all the body in those. And then I began to mesh them. And I went from 14 poster boards to 10. I went from 10 to 6, 6 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1. And then I wrote it over, took it home, digitized it, edited it, grammar, wrote it, printed it, put it on my board. And I remember recently, like 2 months ago, it's in my room. It's there every day. I don't read it every day. I'd like to. And I read it. And it was so mind blowing that I am that person I wrote. And I had no idea this was the path I was going to write. The word integrity's on there, family, leader, teacher, all these things. I'd love to share it with you. And I will actually. I'd actually love to, for someone else to see it besides me.
That's awesome.
And the point of the story is that, everyone has a different way to discover their why. I use process mastery. Now, as I reflect, I like emptied out. I was measuring, monitoring myself. I had vertical innovation on what my process was. It was vertical until I had something. And it is like so utterly mind blowing to the T. Who I am, how I show up, my relationship with myself, my girlfriend who's right next to me, my family, the way I treat the people I love, the way I see humanity. And I remember being in an event called Legendary Mastermind with Sean and Chris Crone, and they were talking about storytelling. And in an instant, I took a paragraph and I said, rewriting humanity. And that became my life's work. And that has so much meaning into it. Once a year, I still have all those cardboards. I lay them out in my house and I read them. I read my mission and I re-anchor on what rewriting humanity means to me. And I innovate because I also learn along the way. And for everyone out there that's always listening about why and finding it, I hope that you can take that process and use all of it, parts of it, some of it, none of it, as a non-strategic but a practical way to discover it, because it worked for me. And if you're watching Get Up and Grow, that's what we want you to do. We want you to get up and grow.
That's
and
it.
if you're watching this and you're thinking, how do I do that? I hope you can take that process and implement it for you.
Absolutely. Listen, it's by the way, you may not read it every day, but the fact that it's hanging there and your brain knows that it's there. We're a perfect computer. You glimpse at it once. You may not remember it, but you may not have a photographic memory, but your brain is a picture, so it knows what's there. You don't have to read it. Your subconscious knows what's there. Not only that, you wrote it, but it's just an anchor. It's just a great anchor to know that it's there, and I'm sure that it gives you. Put it this way: if your mom were to go into, or whatever, somebody was to go into your room and take that poster down, even though you never pay attention to it, I guarantee you would notice it's missing, even if you don't look at it every day. Right? So it's just an anchor. So it's just an anchor. So you don't have to read it every day. But if you do, by the way, for those of you who have created one, it is good to read it every day. Matter of fact, one of the things that I do in my coaching and my strategy practice is I have people do certain exercises, and they're usually filling out a questionnaire, filling out maybe simple 1 or 2 word answers on 4 or 5 things. And one of the things that I say is I'd like you to keep that next to the screen on your computer every single day, so that when you're on it, it's there and you can read it. If you don't read it, you know that it's there. Those are things that are going to help you get into your subconscious and help you focus on what it is that you want to do. You're clicking a little bit on your phone. I don't know if that's
all right. I think that'll be better. Please continue.
All right. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I lost my thought. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, it's important
talking about having why on your computer screen, looking at it every day.
Yeah.
Your coaching program.
Yeah. So it's important to just go through those things and remind yourself sometimes of your greatness. One of the things I tell people is, the things that you write down about what's great about you, or, or what it is, integrity, rewriting humanity, whatever those key words are that make you feel the way you want to feel, those words, those things that move you and motivate you, you should have them around. It's like, Chris Pan from My Intent. The My Intent bracelets, like, oh, I got it. You know what? I have to have him. I'm going to invite him to come on Real Raw, by the way. He started this company called My Intent, and it's just little washers that he puts on bracelets, puts on a necklace. You just put your word, and you can stamp it in yourself. So you can stamp in integrity. You can stamp in rewriting humanity. You can stamp in whatever it is: love, passion, compassion, health, whatever it is, life, love. And it's just something that you remember. Actually, you can't see it. You might not be able to see it. But it says, what does it say?
It says, say it for me.
Get up and grow. Get up and
nice.
grow.
I should have guessed that.
So, the same way that, and I've got some others that he had made for me, but it's important to anchor into those power virtues, to those words that mean something to you. On my computer, right next to the camera here, it says "Be legendary." Right? Be legendary. Just be the best version of you. How are you going to step up and show up in the world for your family, for your significant other, for your spouse, for your kids, for your clients, for your friends? So it's important to look. And Liba, I guess she has one that says "Force for Good." She says, wears it all the time from Tony's party. Yeah. So, it's just important to keep those things focused. And by the way, none of us are perfect. I screw up. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. I get into, arguments with with people, with the people that I love, sometimes with my wife, or have a discussion, or with my kids. I get, yell at the kids because everybody thinks that life is always perfect. It's not. It's ups and downs. It's highs and lows. It's part of life. That's called living. Because if you're just, if it's just, you got to live. You got to live before you die.
I agree, brother. I am so grateful for what you're building here. I've been, so excited to be able to be part of Get Up and Grow. I've seen you move, maneuver, and merge in the most exceptional of ways. The Unblinded movement would not be where it is without your leadership, your contribution, your belief, everything you've done for us on the Real Raw. My only request is that we do more. I've been seeing heat here for quite a long time, and we haven't moved for whatever reason. And I believe there's just so much here together. I love what you stand for. I love how you see people. I love your story, what you do for people, how you stand for them at an insane level. As a coach, as a trainer, as a friend, as a human, I learn from you every time you speak, you share in our chat, or I'm blessed to have conversation with you. And truly, I believe the world is a better place as you do what you're doing here, which is connect leaders, connect together. And is there anything else that I can answer for the show, for the movement, or maybe just a question that you have that's in your heart?
That's awesome, brother. Listen, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I say the same to you, how you're showing up in the world and what you're doing, and to hear you, even your evolution over the last few months of your delivery of content, your delivery of, your communication. It's just, from this side. Yeah, I don't know if it could be my laptop. I can hear that clicking pretty bad.
Yeah, I think it's your computer.
That's weird. I'm not touching it. Do you hear it as well?
Better now.
Yeah, that's so weird.
No, it's coming back, but it's all good.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes this thing gets a little screwy. I thought it was on the other side, but I apologize for that. For everybody who's listening, it's hands off. But yeah, so I appreciate how you're showing up and what you're doing and the impact that you're making, and certainly that Sean's making. Wow, that is really kind of crazy. Sounds like I'm typing, but I'm not. I swear. I've only got two hands.
Well, listen, it's all good. Maybe
hold on.
that's a
Let me
sign. Hi, everyone. Technology is amazing till it's not. So as Tony makes his way back here, I'm grateful for you. I hope that you take something or many things, from today's show. I'm grateful for the Get Up and Grow movement. I believe that this show is exceptional. There's things to learn. There's people to meet. There's lessons, to grow. And if, you're ever interested in connecting, with us, and I'll let Tony, share and make sure that you find Get Up and Grow. As I mentioned, I am the founder of the Unblinded movement, and I'd love for you to join us. I'd love to teach you how to make more money in less time with more magic as we teach our formula. And if you're ever interested in, coming, a great starting point to get exposed to what we do, our energy and everything else is unblindedhuddle.com. And you can join our Unblinded Huddle. We have a 30-minute huddle with hundreds of people from dozens of countries every day from 8:30 to 9 o'clock Eastern, where we talk about fun, excitement, and magic. And that's unblindedhuddle.com. So I'd love to see you there. And Tony, where do they go if they want to see more Get Up and Growness? Where do they find you, and how do they make sure they stay involved? And if they're interested in this amazing coaching dynamic that you have, what's the next step to go there?
Well, you can. And I apologize for that. I'm actually on my computer here, so I'm doing a three-way here. Obviously, nice. You can connect with me on Instagram at Tony Rodriguez 2.0, on Facebook, certainly. And you can actually go to GetUpNGrow.com. The site is actually in the process of being redone. It'll be up by the weekend or by Monday. So you'll be able to message me. But certainly on social media is the easiest way to get me. And again, I'm excited to be part of the journey of Unblinded. I'm excited to be to just be connected with so many great people like you, like Sean, like so many, everybody that's in the Unblinded community is amazing. And as I tell Sean, I've told Sean from the beginning, every time I talk about it, I appreciate the Unblinded movement, because what I tell them, I says, everybody's got to become unblinded and Get Up and Grow, because until you see what you're refusing to see, and most of the times we don't grow because we're refusing to see what's right in front of us. we're refusing to grow. I'll share with you how GetUp came about. That kind of followed me and found me, and it was because I was refusing to see what was right in front of me. So I had to be unblinded in order to get up and grow. And so help unblind people to reality, to what is actually going, to see things through a different lens, and to be able to appreciate, life like different through a different perspective. Um, so yeah, I love that. That whenever. By the way, I have my first 10 by 10 meeting today at 7:30.
Oh, yes. Yes, I love to hear that. Congratulations, man. Totally want to hear how that goes.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of too. So I'm looking forward to having as many of them on this podcast.
That's awesome, brother. It brings a big smile to my face to hear you must be unblinded to get up and grow. That sounds like an ecosystem merger at the precipice, and I'm committed here publicly to drive that home together. And I love you, man. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak to your movement. As I mentioned, and I'll say again, it's an honor to have your leadership in ours. Just not the same without you. And I believe that I am better off with you. And humbly, I'll say that we're better together. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me here. And I wish you an amazing rest of Fun Friday. To all you fine folks out there, get up and grow, discover your why, break down this podcast, and more importantly, take action. You must be unblinded to get up and grow. Tony Rodriguez, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me here.
Dude, I'm going to close up the show, but don't go away. I just want to wrap it. Don't hang up. So, listen, I'm so glad that everyone and every one of you, your comments. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for just for being here. And thank you for sharing this. As you know, we're streaming on both Facebook and YouTube. You can always just share this video if it resonates. Apologize for the clicking sound. Don't know exactly what that is. But do share this video if it resonated with you. And again, I want to say thank you to Fernando for being here, for how you appreciate you, and for all of you for being here. And I just want to remind everyone that life is not about how many times. It's about learning to get up after every fall. And remember that it's in falling down that you learn, then grow. And every single time you fall, you have an opportunity to get up and grow. And grow you must. Grow we all must. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I will see you guys another great Saturday with the great Brian Bradley of Agascu. And for now, that is it. Thank you, Fernando, for coming on. And I will see everyone tomorrow. Appreciate you. Ciao. Great weekend.
Bye-bye.